Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sephora. I'm an attorney and a life coach, and I help ambitious women reach their life goals, remove limiting beliefs, and set themselves on their path to success. If that is you, then definitely hit the subscribe button and make sure you check out my other videos that you may find helpful in the Upgrade Your Life playlist. Today's video is actually going to be all about advice to future law students, aspiring attorneys, my best advice that you should take that I wish someone had told me when I was applying to and preparing to start law school. I have 10 tips for you guys, 10 tips. Let's jump right in. Number one, start early. Okay? I'm sorry. Start early. And like I'm laughing because like I really mean that. I cannot tell you. So as you guys probably know by now, I do life coaching, and within that life coaching, I also do law school coaching where I help people who are trying to get into law school with their application and succeed in law school. And that is topping the curve. My life coaching, the overall business is Transformative Women. Woo woo. If you haven't already, check that out at my website, sephoragray.com. But I cannot tell you how often people come to me, law school clients, and they haven't started studying for the lsat. They want to take the lsat in like between 3 to 7 months. And I'm just like, what? You know? So start early is my first tip. And when I say start early, I mean a year before would ideally want to take the lsat is when you should start to prepare for the lsat. So if you are in undergrad and you want to go straight through, that means no break, you're gonna be KJD, you're gonna graduate from undergrad and go straight to law school. That is usually your junior year, okay? That is usually going to be your fall of your junior year is when you're gonna start studying for the lsat. Why? Because you're gonna take it more than likely the summer or fall of your senior year so that you can apply to law school and get in once you graduate from undergrad, okay? So breaking that down, if you're going straight through, again, that is usually the fall of your junior year, you are going to need to start prepping for the lsat, okay? And I'll get into more details on that in just a second. If you are not an undergrad or you are taking a break, then the way to think about it is a year before you want to take the lsat, start preparing, okay? And the reason why that is because different people have different strengths. Some people are very good at test taking, some people are not. You need to figure out which one you are, especially if you don't already know. I've always been great at tests, and I didn't study very long for the LSAT. That was a huge mistake, but I'll get into that later. But whichever side you're on, it's never going to hurt you to start early, because then it gives you more time to study over a period of time, which is usually going to equate to a higher LSAT score, or GRE if you choose to take that, to actually get into the law school that you're aiming for, right? So when you start, so people have different opinions on this. I personally don't really think it matters that much, but if you start with a diagnostic, you're gonna see where you're at. And if you start with this diagnostic and you're at a 150 and your goal is a 170, then you've got a year to get to that 170, right? And it's better you know that sooner rather than later. So after you take that diagnostic, you actually start studying and you take another practice test, and then you're gonna see where you quote unquote really are, right? Because you've done some studying and you're gonna see what you're scoring at, and then maybe you take it and you're at a 156 and you're like, okay, so my true score after a little bit of studying is probably 156. I've still got like what, 14 or so, 16 or so more points to go to hit that 170 goal. So again, knowing this sooner rather than later is going to do you a huge favor when you are trying to get into law school. So that is one of the first things I absolutely recommend to do. Number two, think about your goals. And when I say think about your goals, I'm not saying you need to know right now, right this second, I want to be an IP attorney. I want to be a criminal defense attorney. Like, I mean, like that's like good for you if you know, but also it really doesn't matter if you don't. It doesn't matter if you know you want to do litigation, corporate, whatever. It really doesn't matter, because honestly, it doesn't matter for like what I'm about to say, for which law school you're going to go to purposes. By know your goals, I mean, I'm talking much broader than that. Do you want to go to big law? Do you want to do private practice? Do you want to do government practice? Do you want to do public interest? Do you want to do, I don't know, small firm, mid-sized firm, whatever it may be? Trying to do some research and join my membership community, because you'll get all this information directly from me. But do some research and kind of figure out like what it is your goals are, right? Because the better idea you have, and talking to people will help you with this as well, and doing your own research, the better idea, then you can actually start to make a legitimate plan for yourself in terms of applying to law school. And what I mean by that is this. There are certain law schools that are going to be better at placing you into certain post-law school jobs than others. Concrete example. If you say, well, my ultimate goal one day is to become a judge, you are going to need a federal clerkship. There are certain law schools, usually all within the T14, that are much better at placing students into federal clerkships than any of the other law schools. And this is a fact, you can look it up. A lot of judges highly take a lot from these certain level of law schools. Now, of course, there are your outliers where it's like, oh, this regional judge or this local judge here in I don't know, Idaho or Colorado, they commonly recruit from the local law school here. That's great, and that's well, and that's probably true. But more broadly speaking, the percentage of students who are getting clerkships largely come from these same schools. And so if you are like, I want to increase my chances of getting this clerkship, of becoming a judge, of going into academia, then I need to get into one of these top law schools. And if you know that you need to get into one of these top law schools, then you know that you need to make sure your application materials are perfect. Again, I can help you with that. Make sure that you get a high LSAT score, right? You need to make sure all of these things. And again, just tying back into the first tip, the sooner you know that, the better, because you can actively prepare and plan for that. So like just to name a few, I just said like judging, federal clerkships, academia, big law. Those are all the things that really, the percentage is higher depending on the law school you go to. So like, for example, I haven't checked this recently, and maybe I should have for this video, but like, for example, I think Columbia places over 80% of their students into big law, which means you could literally graduate median, below median, and still get big law. Whereas some other schools can barely put 10 to 15% of their students, which means even if you graduate in top third, you have a lower chance of landing big law, right? So those are the nuances and differences I'm talking about, where if you kind of know in advance, or at least begin to think about it, you can start preparing a plan for yourself to make sure you get into these like schools. Number 3, I think I already said this actually. Number 3 is choose your law school according to your goals. So once you've gotten those goals done, choose your law schools accordingly. If I want to be a judge, if I want to go into academia, I want to be a professor at a law school, I want to do these things, and you want to choose the law schools that's going to be more likely to get you to those goals. I always say that to my clients, because my clients are always like, oh, but so-and-so, my friend is going here and da-da-da. I'm like, okay, but what are your goals? Right? Because that is what matters, is choosing your law school according to your goals. And so yes, sometimes that can mean, and I definitely do this in my membership community, sometimes that may mean like, oh, hey, like let's apply to this regional school because you know that you want to practice here, you're from here, you live here, you want to stay here. This is a great option for you. That may not be the case for somebody else, right? And so I'm having these conversations with my clients in my membership community. They're seeing that in the courses and the modules and the videos, and learning how to make these decisions. So that is tip number 3. Tip number 4, put effort into your application materials. I feel like this shouldn't have to be said, but you are trying to go to law school. You are trying to go into a profession where writing is important. And so you want to make sure that you are showing the admissions counselors that you have basic writing skills in your materials. Materials have flow, they're consistent, you know how to tell a story, you know, you're able to show these basic writing skills you already have, and you're not going to be going into law school and needing to establish these basic writing skills, because legal writing is different from just like regular writing. And so you're not really going to be learning how to, like, your basic writing skills when you're in law school. What you're actually learning is legal writing. And so just showing that you've already gotten those skills down. So that's like the first side, right? It's just not just putting together anything. The second thing I will say about your application materials is it really is an opportunity to show why you should be admitted to this law school. Like, who are you as a person, and why should someone like you, and not just someone like you, why should you be admitted to this law school? Why do you deserve to be here? What are you going to bring to this law school community? And your application is literally the place to show this, right? Because outside of your LSAT and your GPA, it's like, okay, but I've got all these other things in my favor as well. I've got da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da, right? all these things. And that is literally what your application is for. So do yourself a favor and spend time on it. I always tell my clients, you should ideally be working on your application materials for a period at minimum 2 to 3 months at minimum, because you don't want to turn in something shabby. Even as an attorney, as a federal law clerk, I'm never turning in my first or even second draft of something. Like, I just finished an assignment last week. I finished it on Thursday. I reviewed it after I finished it on Thursday. I reviewed it again on Friday, and tomorrow's Monday, and I'm gonna review it again. That's 4 times, right? And this is a 10-page document, right? Before I'm turning it in. And so, you know, your statements, your essays, your application material, it's not gonna be something where you write once and you turn it in, or even write once and then review a second time and then turn it in. And usually I suggest, like, again, having those hours, days in between, so that you're approaching it with a fresh mind, fresh perspective. Number 5, this is something that no one told me, but luckily I did it anyway. And actually a lot of this, no one told me any of this. But you need to take, if you can, and I really do recommend it. Actually, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. I 100% recommend it because I see the difference between people who have and people who have not. Take a pre-law course or some pre-law prep course to actually prepare you for what law school is going to be. So I took one through Georgetown. It's called Rise. It was amazing. And I will tell you this, you will not realize the benefit of the pre-law course while you are in it. But once you actually finish your first semester of law school, or get towards the end, you will realize the benefit, because that's how it was for me. And my membership community is the Becking Your Big Law Bag membership community through Topping the Curve. It is one such pre-law prep course. It's for the communities for law school applicants and law school students, helping you apply to and succeed once you are in law school. But the benefits of a pre-law prep course is actually learning what you are going to be doing in law school and learning how to succeed in law school. I feel like those people who get the pre-law prep course versus the people who don't have some sort of pre-law prep course, the ones who do know what they need to do in order to graduate at the top of their class, in order to do well in law school. So for example, what I teach in my community, you learn how to schedule, you learn how to create the schedule that's tailored to you, into your courses, into what you want to do in law school. You learn how to network, how to properly go about networking with not only your professors and your classmates, but also cold and hot networking, which is like cold emails and networking in like actual networking events. You're also going to learn how to study for the exam. That is so important. It's learning how to study for the exam, learning how to outline, learning what you should do with your case briefs. Literally all of these things, it's easier. You are going to do better if you know these things in advance, instead of actually starting law school and trying to figure it out at the same time, because just naturally, if you know it in advance, you're not going to be struggling to figure it out while you're also trying to adjust to law school. And so I do recommend a pre-law course of some sort. Mine is great, but there's plenty out there that you can consider doing. The other thing that I'll say there, pre-law, like prep for law school, is not reading the law. It's not reading your case books. It's none of that. So don't do that. You don't need to do that. And you're just going to confuse yourself, and you're not going to even know what your professor wants you to know. Like, that's not what it is. It's understanding what to do in law school, understanding how to approach law school, understanding what you need to do in order to succeed. That is what prepping for law school looks like. Wow, I've got a lot on here. Geez, my mouth is getting dry. I should have some water, but I don't. Okay. Number 6, learn to be disciplined. I think that the people who are more disciplined, who have learned to stick to a schedule, who have learned to actually adhere to a quote unquote strict regimen, do better in law school, because they're able to actually study when they say they're going to study. They're able to outline when they say they're going to outline. They do the things they said they are going to do when they said they're going to do it. Learning to develop discipline is going to help you in law school, because you have to be disciplined in order to really make sure that you're going to perform well in law school, because you're balancing all these things, right? You're balancing for 3-4 hours of reading, 2.5 when you get more experience. You're balancing outlining, you're balancing networking, you're balancing extracurriculars, you're balancing all of these things, looking for jobs while you're in law school. And you have to be disciplined enough to know, I've got to study, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to make sure I'm ready. And so just developing that discipline early on is going to be extremely beneficial to you, and learning how to, transition that into the law school environment, which is why sometimes, I don't know if there's a study on this, but it's why sometimes, I read something about it, but people who have worked before sometimes come into law school, perform a little bit better, like especially people who have worked a couple of years before, because they're used to that 9-to-5 job. And you'll hear people say that all the time, like treat law school like a job, treat it like a job. And I do think that's true for the most part. If you're liking this video, if you want more law school content, definitely feel free to click this playlist, which is going to be the law school playlist, and feel free to watch all of the law school content on here, all of the attorney content. And yeah, make sure you comment down below. Let me know what other types of law school videos, attorney videos you want to see. The video's not over. I said 10 tips, but comment down below what other types of content you want to see about life as an attorney, whatever it may be. Tip number 7, do not underestimate the value of networking. Don't do it. Do not do it. Networking can get you a job. Networking can get your foot in the door when your grades cannot. Networking will build you relationships that will last you a lifetime. I have people who I networked with when I was in law school who are now my mentors, who I don't talk to every day, but when I need something, I can email them. When I want to talk about something, when I want to run a question by them, I can talk about something. People who are also going to be willing to offer me jobs when I need it because they know me, they know my personality, they know how I performed in law school. Like literally networking can do so much for you personally and also so much for your professional career. There's tons of stuff I could say on networking. I literally have an entire course devoted to it in the membership community. But networking is so important. So make sure when you are in law school, again, you are engaging in that networking to supplement your grades, supplement your law school experience, your professional and ultimately personal career, because networking is a give and take, and it's also a personal relationship, and you should treat it as such. Number 8, prioritize preparing for the exam over anything else. I don't care about your cold call. Your professor doesn't care about your cold call. I mean, maybe he does because he wants you to have done the reading, and obviously do the reading. But if you don't remember if the card color is gray or blue or yellow or black, who cares? What matters is your exam, and you should always be prepping for the exam. You should always be prioritizing preparing for the exam over anything else. The only thing the cold call is really for is some professors like to do it. Make sure you've done the reading, I guess. I mean, prepare for the exam over anything else. Read for the exam, outline for the exam, case brief for the exam, read supplements for the exam, do everything for the exam, because that is what matters. That is what your grade is on, so that is what matters. Number 9, set expectations and boundaries with your friends and family and people outside of law school early on, because you are going to be busy. You are not going to be able to attend everything, do like all the things you used to do, go out all the time, whatever it may be, talk on the phone all the time. So just set those expectations early and let them know you're going to be in law school. It's going to be a lot. You're not going to be able to talk to them as much. You're not going to be able to go out with them as much. You're not going to be able to do this, fly to them, whatever it may be. Set those expectations early on so you aren't struggling to set them once you actually start law school, and then you end up feeling bad about it. And then the last tip I have for you guys is when you're in law school, don't give up what you've done for fun just because you are now in law school. Keeping your mental health and keeping yourself as stress-free as possible is going to be very, very important when you are in law school. So whatever you do for fun, keep doing that when you're in law school. I personally made sure I had a free day. My free day was usually Sundays when I was in law school, to do things that I like, to just relax, whatever. I would also go out Thursdays. I went to bar review, and then I would go out like either Friday or Saturday. Especially my 1L year, I was doing all of that. So just make sure you're giving and making time for yourself. And if you have a schedule, you will have absolutely no problem doing that. There is more than enough time for you to have free time in law school. Like I said, my 1L year, I went out probably minimum twice a week, and I had my free days on Sundays, and I still graduated top of my class. I still performed really well. It is possible so long as you apply yourself and make sure you're doing the right things. I encourage you guys to check out my membership community. It is through Topping the Curve. You can view it down here on my website, sephoragrey.com. And if you have any questions at all, comment them down below. And if you guys like this video, again, check out the law school playlist, and I will see you guys on my next one. Bye.